Good morning. Welcome to Mike on the Mic. I'm Dr. Michael Galani. I'm the superintendent of West Jefferson Hills School District. And this is Kat, my co-host. Kat's a senior at the high school, and I'm going to have her talk a little bit about herself. But I first want to introduce, what is Mike on the Mic with Kat, and why are we doing this? So every year we talk about new ways of improving our communication with students and parents. And at a meeting this summer with our school board, when we were talking about some various strategies, I said, why don't I do a podcast or a show on a YouTube channel that people can watch, start off monthly, that we can talk about the hot topics and what people are talking about throughout the district, but at the high school as well, since Kat's a high school student. That way we can get accurate information out into the community. Probably my biggest Achilles heel in being the superintendent are the false information and things that are put out on Facebook. And I'm constantly trying to encourage people to call the school and give factual information. And I think this is a great way to get some of that information out there. Give myself the opportunity to explain it. We'll have guests on the show from time to time to talk about their specific expertise or areas or experience. We'll probably have other students from Kat's television productions class have guest roles on the show. But it's really about getting information out to parents and students, the information they want when they want it. Because I think if you don't get ample communication out, people will just make up whatever they think they want to make up, and then you'll have people start to believe that. So that's kind of the purpose of what we're doing, and I love having Kat here because she can give us a student's perspective and what the students are thinking. Now, I have to caution you that she doesn't represent every student in the high school, but she can at least talk about her experience as a student here and in the new building and the new programs that we're doing. So I think it'll be great to get that perspective as well. So Kat, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a senior, as you said, at the high school. I play track, or I run track.
What do you want to do after high school? Kat's a little nervous.
After high school, I plan on going to Cal U to study education, to become a teacher.
Great.
Yeah.
You may have me as a professor there one day. I've been teaching at Cal U for 17 years. I usually teach a class or so a semester in the evening, either online, sometimes in person. So you may end up having me as a professor one day as well.
That would be fun.
You'll be a great teacher. And people are probably wondering, why Kat? Well, one of the first students I met when I came here as superintendent, she was courageous enough to email me out of the blue.
Yeah.
And I was like so happy that a student actually emailed me. I'm like, I have to go meet this girl. So I went up to the old high school and called her out of class and called her down, which probably made her really nervous. And we got to know each other through that conversation. And since then, every time I bump into her, I talk to her. And this year, she happened to be in the class, and I thought she'd be a great co-host. Hopefully she's comfortable with me, and she's someone I'm definitely comfortable with having on the show. So for today, I want to focus on a couple of things. We're now, 6 weeks or so into the school year, into a new building. And it was a huge thing for this district. I feel like teachers, parents, students probably feel like they've waited forever for this school building. And we're finally in it. It's come to reality. And just like everything else throughout the process, throughout the project, there were rumors and things about the building. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And our guest today, after we go through some of these topics, is going to be Mr. Ryan Snodgrass, who's our Director of Facilities. And Ryan and I spent a lot of time together over the last 3 years, both on the high school project and then now on the Gill Hall project. So we'll talk to him a little bit about those projects in a while. But I first want to talk about, how has your year been, Kat? You were in the old building, you kind of been through a lot of these changes as a student. Now you're in this big, beautiful building. How has it been? New schedule, new building, kind of new everything. What's it been like for you?
I mean, it was hard at first, for sure, to get into it and then find all like where all my classes were. I still get pretty lost.
Really?
Yeah.
Still finding your way around. One of the things, there's not a lot of signage to show you
No,
where to
not at all.
go. It's
That's
kind of,
right.
which is interesting because, we talked about that, like wayward signs, and you kind of have to memorize it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of signs that direct you where to go. What's your favorite thing about the new high school?
Probably the media center.
The media center.
Yeah.
What do you like about the media center?
That it's big and it's open and you can sit wherever you want and you still have like that little bit of privacy wherever you sit.
Do you like the cafeteria?
It's all right.
It's still all right? I thought it'd be a lot better than all right.
No, I like it. It's different. I've never seen one exactly like that or close to it, even in other schools.
Well, I have to admit, when I first saw the design for this building and I saw a circular cafeteria, I thought, oh man, is that going to be hard to supervise students
Yeah.
in? And then we put all those high tops in. Those were decisions we made consciously. But what shocked me is how students are so much better behaved and focused. And like the round setup, because you're kind of tight with your group.
Right.
But you can't see everyone else. And that's kind of been shocking. And then the other thing I found out, that we had a visitor here from Carnegie Mellon, and she runs their student activities. And she told me that it was genius to put the high top tables in because students are more likely to sit at the high top tables when they don't know other people at the table than low top tables.
Yeah.
And if you watch it, like kids it's kind of like they find their own way there. And with PLT, kids never know who's going to be in the cafeteria necessarily when they are. So I think that's really calmed a lot of the anxiety for that. So you're having a good senior year? And
So far, yeah. It's not as stressful as I thought it was going to be. I'm just flying through it right now.
so what do you do outside of school?
So I work at Italian Village down on Old Clareton and
okay.
also Shop and Save. So I work a lot just until track season starts again.
What events do you do in track?
A lot. I do the 100, the 200, the 4x4, the 4x1, hurdles, and
Wow.
yeah.
Come see you run. I didn't know all that. So we can start to get into our topics. I have a list here for Kat and I to talk about. And the first one kind of ties into what we're speaking about now, and that's the new schedule. For those of you that don't know, we had a committee that we put together whenever we started the new high school. We involved students, teachers, administrators to talk about, we had an opportunity moving to this new building to do something different. And not just for the sake of change, but for the sake of, how can we make the students' experience better? And how can we change our structures to better promote learning? And in that, we really looked at the model of education and how we use time. And if you think about the history of education going all the way back to Horace Mann, time in schools has always kind of been the constant. And everything else has had to be moldable to fit into that time. So whether it was 9 or 8 or 7 blocks of time, everything was kind of thrown into those blocks. And this is my 24th year, going on my 25th year of education, in education rather. And the one thing I always hear from students is, and you're kind of an example of it, I don't have any time. I'm working 2 jobs, I play football, I run track, I'm in the choir, I'm in the marching band. Whatever it is, when school ends, my day doesn't end. I have some other activity I need to do. And I know even for my kids, I have an 11-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old. And their their evenings are pretty busy as well. So, kids always say, I don't have any time. When you talk to teachers, in 24 years, going 25, the thing I always hear is, I wish I had more time with my students. We know every student doesn't learn at the same rate. We know kids learn differently. And yet we treat them like they're in an assembly line and give them all the same thing, expect them to be all at the same place at the same time, because time is the constant. So how could we change that? How could we acknowledge that students don't learn the same, that they don't learn at the same rate, that kids don't have the time in the evening to do tons of homework? which, by the way, research shows doesn't have that big of an effect on learning. So how could we change that? And that's where the idea of PLT comes in. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about PLT. Even my mother, who taught here for over 30 years, and she has a group of old retired TJ teachers. And when she first heard of PLT, she said, yeah, my friends and I are talking, and are you seriously going to just turn loose kids for an hour and a half and it's going to be like a free-for-all? And I said, no, Mom, that's not what it is at all. And the idea of PLT, and I think everyone, I read some of the comments, and one of them was, well, back in the day we called this study halls. That's not what it's meant to be, and it's still evolving. We're in week 6. But what we want it to be and what we envision it to be is that time that's not constant. That time that gives, if you need more help, you have the opportunity to get more help from your teacher. If your teacher feels that you need more help, they can pull you for that help. Time that if you need to do something for homecoming, you're not taking away valuable class time. You do it during PLT. If you want to have an assembly or a guest speaker, you do it during PLT. It's also time to get kids out of their lanes, and you probably know this in your experience. It's real easy to stay with the same group of kids that you know, that you're comfortable with, and there are probably kids in your senior class that you don't even know. And maybe through a class like TV, you do get to know them, but trying to get kids out of their lane on activities and interests that they normally wouldn't sign up for because now they have the time. Things like Best Buddies, which was a wonderful program that was started this year for our life skills students. I couldn't get over how many students were there to support that. For guests, like I said, Mr. Snodgrass has calculated so far in 6 weeks, we've saved over 500 minutes of class interruption time of all the things we normally do at the beginning of the year because of PLT. So what have you done during PLT? How have you used your PLT time?
Well, most of the time I leave early.
To go work?
Yeah, because I leave at 11:30 for work study. But if I do need to stay, I'll stay because I'm in AP Art.
Okay.
So I'll stay to have an open studio and finish what I didn't finish in class. Or if I'm falling behind in law or something, I'll go to law and she'll reteach me it and make sure I fully understand it. So I feel like that's nice because then I don't have to stay after school.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think that's what it's about. So overall, you've experienced it as pretty positive.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note, everyone's going to have a positive, and you also have negatives that say, for me, it's a waste of time. I'd rather be taking a class. And I think there are opportunities. We've looked at them, and we're going to start promoting opportunities. If kids truly do, I don't need the extra time. I don't want to go work out in the gym. I don't want to go play hockey during PLT. I just want to be, I want to take another class. There are those opportunities. We're partnering with CCAC, and hopefully next semester we're going to start by offering, we're going to offer their aviation program during PLT. So they'll actually send a professor in, and we'll offer aviation. We're also looking at partnering with Arizona State University, where students can actually take their freshman year while they're in high school, and they don't have to pay for the classes until they're done with them. That could be taken during PLT. So I think there's those opportunities for students as well. We're still developing, what PLT, can be. We've talked to a SAT prep company that wants to come in. They're the best in Pittsburgh to offer an SAT prep class. So no longer would you have to come back at 8 o'clock at night after your practices or after your work. You could do it during PLT if you're doing well in all your classes. So, it's important to understand it's in development, it's continuing to grow, and we'll continue to leverage it to help students. The second thing. So now that we talked about PLT, do you want to tell them about the next segment we're going to see?
So it's called Cat on the Prowl. And it's basically just me running up to random people in the hallways, asking them questions about what we're talking about on the show. So this week it was what's your opinion on PLT?
Thank you. So we're gonna show you that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about a few more topics and do our interview. Thank you.
Think of PLT.
I like it.
Thanks. PLT.
I think PLT is pretty stupid. Waste of time.
Thanks. Okay. What do you guys think of PLT?
I think it's a great time because I watched Star Wars with Sheerhouse.
PLT is fun because I get to hang out with my friends.
Thank you. PLT.
It can be helpful, but it's kind of pointless.
Thanks.
Oh, hey, Kat. I think PLT is great, honestly. I think it's awesome that you guys get a chance to have a little bit of a break in your day or get that extra help you need for classes. I mean, obviously everybody loves PE, so you can come and have more PE if you want, or you can go get academic help if you want. I think it's awesome. I wish I had it in high school.
What do you guys think of PLT?
I think it's a little not great, and it could be worked on a bit because people select everything way too far in advance. You can't get anything.
I agree with him, but I like how you can pick what you want to do and when you want to do it.
Hey, Mr. Grunts, what do you think of PLT?
PLT is awesome. I didn't think of it.
Hi, Will. What's up?
What do you think of PLT?
Well, I think that it grants a lot of freedom to the kids who get to choose their own classes during that time. And considering how restrictive school can be, with all the kids in the new building, I think it's a grand addition.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks.
And considering I basically live in Create Lab, it's pretty good.
All right, welcome back, and it was an enjoyable segment of Cat on the Prowl, first one officially ever. So we're going to talk about a couple more quick topics, and then we're going to bring Mr. Ryan Snodgrass, Director of Facilities for the district, on and ask him a few questions about some of the projects we have going on right now in the district. But one topic I do want to talk about with you, Kat, is safety and security. You know, the last week we've had a couple incidents in the district where, you know, one was more rumor based, the other one was an actual incident that I know, a lot of students were out of school on Monday. Can you tell us, do you feel safe and secure in the building, and what are your thoughts on this past week?
Well, I feel pretty safe in the school. I wouldn't say that there's anything to make me feel unsafe. Like, we have so many security guards walking around. Every morning we always have another police officer here, so I feel fine walking into school.
Have you noticed a lot of the safety improvements in this building?
I mean, I don't really pay attention to them, but yeah. Yeah, there's some things.
Well, like you said, we now have 2 security guards. Mm-hmm. In addition to, we added an armed police officer. So we have 2 armed police officers, 2 security guards. We are going to have, it's up, but we're not operational yet, a security shack up at the top of the hill to stop anyone coming onto campus during the day and check them. We do use a Raptor system for anyone coming into the building. As you know, we run not everyone, we run a randomized group through a metal detector every day. We did double the efforts of that this year, so we're now a little over 200 students a day going through the metal detector. Our goal is, hopefully by next year, to find a way logistically that's practical to get every student through a metal detector. There's over 160, we'll ask Mr. Snodgrass the exact number. There's cameras all over this building, outside this building, license plate readers. I mean, the ballistic film on windows, and bulletproof glass at the entry when you look into the attendant's office. So we've tried to take every security precaution possible, and we continue to do that. I think the important message, and hopefully you can talk about this, when you see something suspicious, or you see something on Snapchat or Instagram, or reporting that to the police or the school, I think is the most important thing. Unfortunately, with one issue this week, it kind of got a life of its own and legs of its own through social media before we could even address what was factual and what wasn't factual.
Right.
So what's your take on that? How do you
that whole thing from
Monday?
Monday?
How do you think about how do you think that happened? Do you think kids are too dependent on social media for their information? Do you think they were hesitant to call the school? Do you think they just wanted a day off? I don't know what.
I mean, I feel like they were maybe scared to tell the school because they don't want to be, because I know like one girl, like I was talking to her and she said that she overheard something and she didn't want to go to the office because she didn't want to get dragged into it. So I know a lot of kids may just like want to stay away from it just because of that. And I don't think we wanted the Monday off. I don't think so.
Kids just were nervous because they didn't know what was true and what wasn't
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I can understand that. And that's why we try to put out the information. But I think it is important for kids to feel safe to come to us. It's not necessarily getting drug into it, but you could be that person when there is a true disaster or a true threat or a true issue. You could be that person that saves lives and saves, and prevents someone from doing something they may not want to do. So keep being vigilant, and we're going to keep making sure this is the safest and secure high school and district in the state of Pennsylvania. We're going to keep making upgrades and looking ways to improve and get better. So now I want to bring on our special guest for today, Mr. Ryan Snodgrass. Do we have a mic for him? We're going to mic him up and bring him over here. And I'm going to scoot over a little bit, Kat, if you want to scoot over. And Ryan, like I said, Mr. Murphy was originally going to be our guest, but we're going to bring Mr. Snodgrass on. Like I said, he oversees all facilities. Everything from keeping the buildings clean, the grounds cut, to construction projects. And Mr. Snodgrass was heavily involved with myself and kind of led the high school construction project and is now overseeing the Gill Hall construction project. And, he kind of is responsible for all of that stuff. So, can you tell us a little bit about where the high school project's at and then where the Gill Hall project's at right now?
Absolutely. We've now been in the high school for a little bit over a month, and we're still not completed. One of the problems with one of the parts of the process of a large construction project like this is it's going to take a while for everything to be done. So there's still some finishing punch list items. There's still some landscaping outside that have to be done.
He said that because every day I drive in, I'm like a landscaping fanatic. Every day he has to hear from me, Ryan, that landscaping's driving me crazy. Like, I hate the grass or lack thereof. Like, it drives me nuts. Yeah. So I beat him up every day when I come into work. That's why he said landscape.
Yes. And of course, anytime, just like if you move into a new house, just figuring out where stuff works, how stuff works, where stuff's at. It's going to take a while for us as a high school to learn all the ins and outs of it. Same thing for my staff and the teachers and the students, just to know where everything's going. Kat's still getting lost, and it's October 16th. So it's going to take a while for everybody to get used to the building, but I can honestly say I think no one wants to go back. So I think we've upgraded, and it's still going to take a little bit. We still have just some bugs to work out, but that's pretty typical for a project of this size.
What about, there's rumors out there right now, and have you heard any rumors about the high school project, like falling into a hole? That was one.
Oh yeah, that we were like built on like a mine or something.
That was it is built on a mine, but when you build on a mine, there are certain things you have to do. Like, just about everything in Western Pennsylvania is built on a mine. But what about other rumors? Like, we had one where it's fallen into a hole. Obviously, it didn't fall into a hole. Are there any other ones you heard?
Not really, other than like the company that was building us. Apparently, they were building another school, and then they just ditched us for a month. That's like little things I've heard.
Yeah. Some of that may be true.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
But the one I heard recently was the pool, because it hasn't been open yet, and people are like, and because it hasn't been open, there's all these crazy rumors out there. Can you tell us about the status of the pool, Mr. Snodgrass?
Well, the last big hurdle before we're able to open the pool is actually going to happen next Thursday, the 24th, when we get certified and inspected by Allegheny County. In Allegheny County, if you have a public pool, the county has to come in and inspect it. And that's the last big thing that we have to do, and then hopefully after that, we'll be able to open the pool shortly after their inspection is completed. But there are no cracks in the pool. We don't have any settlement issues in there right now, so we're basically just waiting on the contractors to finish what they had to finish, and then now the county to come in and inspect it. So,
and you know this because I know this because part of the problem. I want to ensure people like the drainage system under that pool. We went above and beyond to protect that pool from any movement, any drainage from water out in the parking lot. So a lot of those rumors I know aren't true, and that's why I wanted him to speak about that. What about Gill Hall? Tell me about Gill Hall and where that's at.
well, Gill Hall's getting a pretty sizable addition and renovation. We're adding 10 classrooms, a little bit of staff area, a collaborative room, and a set of bathrooms at Gill Hall. Is then also the kitchen and cafeteria got renovated, and we're adding a driver drop-off loop. So when students are dropped off, the bus traffic and mom traffic don't ever cross each other. So it's a pretty big project. They probably have a couple more weeks just to finish up. Right now they're doing landscaping. Paving should be here this week and into next. And then the interior finishes of the new 10 classroom addition should be wrapping up here by the end of the month or just into the first week in November.
Where did you go to elementary?
I moved here in 6th grade.
You did?
Yeah.
Where'd you move from?
I lived in Mount Oliver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you didn't go to Gill Hall or McClellan?
No.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what's on the horizon after, just like you and I want to do more construction projects, but unfortunately we're a growing district.
Absolutely.
And there are facilities upgrades that need made. So what's on the horizon as soon as Gill Hall's done? That project's gone. Unlike the high school, that project has gone extremely smoothly. I will speak for Ryan, but it's been a pleasure to work with DeMarco Construction and Thomas and Williamson and Eccles Architects. That project has gone really well. We had some problems with the unit ventilators, which has delayed it, and some problem with permitting on the front end. But as far as the project, it looks awesome and it's gone really well. But what's on the horizon for the district?
Well, at this month's board meeting, we just had a firm submit a proposal to look at a demographic and feasibility study for the rest of our facilities. We know that our district is growing, and we want to make sure wherever we invest next is going to be the best use of taxpayer money and offer the best environment for students moving forward. So the proposal that we had will actually look at all of our buildings, look at demographics in the region, and say, okay, your best bang for your buck is going to be renovation at Jefferson. Is it a renovation at another building? And right now we're probably leaning towards Jefferson Hills Intermediate School as our next facility to look at. That facility is pretty much original, so from 1991 till now. So it's time for an upgrade in there. Now we already did a roof and HVAC there, but it's probably our next one. One of the other items we're looking at is some artificial turf here at the new high school site. Whether it's the practice field or our eventual plans of moving baseball and softball onto this site, we're looking at that right now as well.
And we were talking about putting a 3-lane track around the practice field if we do that. So it might be somewhere just to work on practice,
Right.
Without having to go over to the new building. Well, thank you for being our guest today.
Not
You've
a
been very
problem.
informative.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a willing participant. He always has to put up with me, and I appreciate you being here. Have you ever met Mr. Snodgrass?
A few times in the.
Really?
In the course of it,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's say he's usually behind the scenes guy, but his wife's a teacher in the district as well.
Yes.
But thanks for being a guest on our show. And
Thank you.
Kat,
Thank
first
you,
one's
Kat.
under our belt. We'll
Yeah.
talk about the next one, and thanks for being willing to be my co-host and be my partner on this show.
And good luck with the co-hosting duty.
Yeah.
I do like to talk. Well, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Mike on the Mic with Kat and our special guest, Mr. Snodgrass, and we'll see you next month.